Hi guys, welcome back to another video. Cork Model Farms here. So today it's finally here. This is my video about the Ploughing Championships 2025 in Tullamore in County Offaly. So it's finally here. I finally been able to go to it this year and get a video out. I wasn't able to go to it last year or the year before, but I finally got to go to it this year. I think this will be my biggest video yet. But here it is. I'd say enough time wasting, and let's just get straight into it. So this is at 6 in the morning, just getting into the car now. So since we had to drive up from Cork, we had to get up at 6 o'clock. I didn't record much stuff on the road because I already did that in the Roscommon video, so I left that out this time. All I did was just when we were entering another county, so here we are entering Limerick. And then only 2 minutes later, we were entering Tipperary. Then we took a stop in Cashel. This is a very good service station in Cashel. Then we were entering Kilkenny. And before we knew it, we were in Laois. And then on this small little lane, we actually entered Offaly. About here. Then we were pulling in. Here we are now. They had the guards and everything out. We were in car park 20, and here was the car park. We had all the pants on and the wellies and everything. And here was the sheep stand. Here was all the sheep from all around the country, mainly from Kildare and Wicklow, I noticed. So there was a Suffolk ram there, and then a nice Galway sheep, which is a native breed of Ireland. They came from, I think, East Galway. And then here are some nice, I think they're Wicklow Cheviot, which is another native breed from Hollywood and Wicklow. And then a few more Suffolks, I think. These were Blue Domain, if I'm correct. And then this was a Scottish blackface ram. He was absolutely enormous. He was huge. And he was born in 2023. And look at him now, he's huge. Then a few more, these were Schwarzkopf from Germany, actually, and this man here imported the first ones into Ireland. He's from Kildare. And then a few more ones here. They were kind of a range of breeds. A few more Texels and Suffolks, mainly Texels and Suffolk, really. And then, well, actually, there was a few, these were New Zealand Suffolks, so they were from New Zealand. And then these ones were Kerry Hill sheep. Funny enough, they're not actually from Kerry. They're from Wales, but there's a town in Wales called Kerry, so that's why they're called Kerry Hills. There was a few Dorset horns over there. There was also a few Jacob sheep in there. I didn't manage to get a clip of them though. And then this was a stand for Fleckvieh. Fleckvieh aren't very common in Ireland. They're a German breed. Are they Austrian? I don't know are they German or Austrian. But there they are. They're dairy cattle, and then there's Gelbvieh, which is kind of like the same, but they're dual purpose. But they're lovely animals. Very nice. All round, very good. And then the few with the Keenan Mech Fiber 365 plus here, with all the stuff. Double axle and single axle. This was the double axle, so this is the exact same as the one that I have in model form, which was very interesting to see one of them up close. And then this was just a range of there was a lot of forestry stuff, actually, in this section. This was a crowd called Timbercrock. They were just showing off their stuff. This is small-scale forestry. This is kind of if you're kind of out in the woods and you need to chop up you need a bit of timber. This is the kind of stuff you'll be using, rather than calling in the big forestry companies. So it's just easier with a chainsaw as well. And then here was the kind of medium-sized stuff. This would be more for just farms. And then this was an interesting thing. You can see this in FS22 actually. These machines, I forgot what they're called. They're like a special type of mower. They use them in the Alps in like Austria, Italy, Switzerland all the time. And then here's another bit of forestry. So this is still kind of medium-sized stuff. And then a few a few wood chip stuff. Wood chip things. And then a nice Valtra up here. Uh, and that was it. I think this crowd had come from Scotland, actually, because the fella talking had a Scottish accent. And then there was a load of quad bikes, actually, for sale. They were lovely. Wouldn't mind getting one of them in the future. And then there was a little sheep trailer there. And then a few lawnmowers as well, and rideable lawnmowers as well. And then a few gators as well. Camo gators. Could be, and a few Kubotas as well. It's nice to see. And then there are all their locations: Wexford, Carlow, Kilkenny, Roscommon, Portlaoise, and Listowel. And here's more of them now. There was a load of them here. And then this is another bit of kind of this is more kind of, I think this was more kind of rolling and small scale fertilizer spreading, and a few more of the quads here as well, Suzuki's as well. And a few more of the old gators, and then this is a gator with a small tipping trailer, and a few, this was kind of an off-road vehicle here. It's a nice one. It's probably my favourite, actually. And then these are very uncommon to see in Ireland, three-wheeled quads. They'd be more in America. You'd find them on ranches and stuff, and they had a few little yokes on the back of them as well. And then here was the a bit more, just the last bit of forestry, kind of. A few more of the kind of log splitters and stuff. And there was also a heat guard there, and there was a nice Valtra, I think, back there. It was very mucky, as I said before, so it's quite hard to walk around, and there was a lot of people there as well, obviously. And then there was some of the stuff in the yard back there, and then this was a selection of Bailey trailers, which was actually quite interesting. You wouldn't really see Bailey trailers in Ireland. They'd be more in England. They use them all the time in England, but they're very rare to see in Ireland. So it was actually quite interesting to see them here, which was because, as I said, very hard to find. I'd never seen them before this. And then here were a few very big slurry tankers, actually. You'd expect them to be milk or oil, but they were actually slurry tankers. No, I'm not sure who would really be using them. And then here was a nice Fiat Agri G210. It was lovely. But with the slurry tankers, I'd know who would be using them, really, only if you had a massive field. And then here were a few of the tyres. And then here was a Ford TW15. It was lovely. Very nice. And very, very polished. A lot of the stuff was very polished and very clean, which was very, very nice to see. And then here was the Red Rock stand. They had this triple axle Red Rock trailer, which was very impressive. It was lovely. It was absolutely huge. It was a big silage trailer. They'd be very hard to find. I have seen people who've done conversions of the K and triple axle to this, and it worked out very well. And then here is their single, or it just appeared is the single auger and single axle feeder, which is very similar to the Keenan one, except it's red. Like I've seen people who have done the have turned the Siku feeders and the Britain's Keenan ones into Red Rock ones. Like these ones are similar to the ones the Siku made. And then a few shear grabs as well. And a good few slurry tankers up there as well. And there was a few low loaders and dump trailers and stuff as well. And grain trailers. But then up here were the slurry tankers. Abbey were also next to them as well, so there were a few Abbey tankers as well. But here are the slurry tankers. They were lovely. I don't know how many gallons they were, but they kind of got progressively bigger. It was a double axle one, and it was very big when you're up there in person with it. They're huge. And then here was a few K2O machines. I think K2O are English. Somebody left a Coke bottle in the back of one of them. And then over here was up here was the big thing everyone was looking at, the big Amazon Pantera, which was sold to a crowd. I forgot what it's back there. Just go back if you want to see what it was sold to. And then this was the crone section. They had the crone tethers and the rakes and the balers and an old muck spreader, which was actually very interesting to see. Crone, I looked into them. I think they're German. And here were the big X's and the forage wagons, which was very very nice to see. But yeah, they're German. I think they're from kind of the west. I think it's North Rhine-Westphalia they're from. And then here was an old Amazon sprayer, which was nice to see. And there's the Krone Big X 650, so a slightly older model. And then here was a few Amazon things, fertilizer spreader and seeder. There it is. Lovely. And there was something else up here. Not exactly sure what this this was it was also part of the seeder, sorry. And then I don't know what this thing is. I think it's something to do with collect. I have no clue, so if you could tell me in the comments, that'd be greatly appreciated. And then a very small old fertilizer spreader, an old Massey. And then here are all the little bits of information. If you want to read about them, pause. Here's it's kind of like the history of all the Krone Big X's as they recently celebrated their 25 years. And they're still making them to this day. And there it is. There's the other Krone Big X, which was lovely to see. It had a 25 years special thing on it. It was 1150, and then here's the wagon again. And then here were some of the Valtras. Nice collection of them. And they had a few little bits on them. Muck grab, and then this one had like some sort of a brush. And then this was a small little telehandler, and then this was a Honda lawnmower and a few more quads. So they were everywhere. And then this was a very small mower without the skirt on it. And then here was an old a big cattle trailer, and there were fellas inside it and all. And it was from Brahan. Brahan had a bit of a bit going on here. It was very nice. I haven't seen one of these before, actually. And then here were a few more of the tyres. Actually, they were from earlier, so you saw them. That's just another view of the cattle trailer. And then here's another Honda. And then here was the McConnell hedge cutter, which was very nice, very fresh, very nice looking. And here was an old fuel bowser from Cashels. Very nice. An old roller as well. And it was also on a Valtra. I think Valtra are Finnish, which is very interesting because you wouldn't see Finnish machines really that often. And then here was just a collection of the rollers from Walter something or other. I forgot the last bit. And then here was the Red Rock Arctic tank, which was unreal, as you can see it there on a Scania. Here it is. It was beautiful, like it was absolutely huge. There it is. It's like you'd expect it to be transporting oil or milk or water or something, but yeah, transports a lot of slurry. So they'd be very, very hard to find. I'd say you'd only find them in like Meath mainly or Kildare. And even Cork as well, especially in the kind of eastern bits of the county. And here was an old major slurry tanker. And then here was a whole selection from Kramer and Tanko. They were side by side, and they had all their moors and their tethers and everything. And a huge shear grab up here as well. They're kind of in the Challenger colours, and this was the clip I used for the short. You might have seen that before. And then here was the I think this was Schaffer. Or sorry, yes, this is Schaffer. Schaffer had a load of things here. They were everywhere. They're also quite rare to see in Ireland, but they were here. They had kind of a selection of the telehandlers and stuff. Schaffer mostly kind of specialise in the smaller stuff, the kind of smaller machines, except they have a few bigger machines as well. And there was probably, I think that's their biggest machine, but they keep getting smaller. And then here are all their locations. They're scattered around the country. There's some in Cork and Antrim, Derry, Sligo or Scabbon. And then here was a big, nice selection of New Hollands. We have a T6 here, and another T6, and another T6. So a very nice selection. And up here was kind of, it's up here now. This was very, very nice, very unique. A tiny New Holland tractor. These would be used for the vineyards and the orchards and stuff. And then a few more of them here. T7s now instead. Lovely machines. With nice weights on them and all. But the little tractor would be very hard to find. They'd really more be in France and Italy, working in vineyards. And then here was a nice Blue Power up here. Beautiful. And then they had a few more of the kind of smaller tractors up here. Also would be more vineyard ones. These would also be working on golf courses as well. So once again, they'd be very hard to find in Ireland. So no point even looking for them. And then here was the selection of the ones with the front loaders on them, so the smallest, and then kind of a medium, and these were all quickie. They weren't all quickie. They were a kind of selection. This one was another quickie. And then I think there was a TS110 in there somewhere, so the same one as my uncle. Obviously a lot more fresh and better looking, no rust or anything. It's unreal how they keep them in such good shape. And here was another one, the Schaffers. But then we headed over to the McHale stand. So McHale had all their stuff here. They had their moors, their double moors, their straw yokes. They got progressively bigger, and then they had all the fusions as well. Obviously, that's what they're most famous for. And there's the headquarters. If you remember from the Mayo episodes, we pulled over and just stopped in for a look because we were in the area passing, so we had to get a little clip. This was before I had cap cut, so you can't really hear me talking when I'm actually there. Then McHale made rakes, which I actually didn't even know. I don't know, are they new or have they been making them for a while? And here's the Fusion 4. And then a few of their wrappers as well. Another more. And a few of their attachments, their bale handlers, which was actually the same one as the one that I have in model form from Perfect 32. And they're big tether, and a few more of the balers over there. And they had a little demonstration screen. And then over here are just some of the cattle, Angus. And then this quote here, if you actually read it there, they're actually from Carrickline, so they're actually just only up the road from me. Well, actually, they're from Ballygarvan, which, if you don't know, Ballygarvan is a village. I think it's just slightly west of Carrickline. Another lovely place, but they're from there. Ballygarvan is obviously where the Ballygarvan show is on. And then here was the other, a few more of the cattle here. There was also some Red Angus, which was very interesting to see. You don't see them that often. And then here was another one, the Red Angus up here. They were lovely. Liz Duff, not exactly sure where that is. And a few more Angus up here. They were lovely animals, very well-rounded and muscled. So yeah, lots of them there. And then here was the kind of the truck, the trailers, the Freudenhof, and the Volvo. This was kind of a crane, I think. Yeah, it had a big arm on the back of it. And there are the few more of the trailers. They had a good few of them, so these would be more kind of grain trailers. You'd occasionally see them in the big operations for silage, but not that often. But it would be quite a sight if somebody was doing silage with one of them. And then up here was kind of the actually not sure what this brand was. It wasn't. It looks like Amazon, but it wasn't. It was Malone. They had mowers and tethers and rakes and everything. And they had their stand. They had all their locations as well. All the crowds did something similar to this, where they had their kind of their screen, their little building, and all their stuff. And then up here was nice classic Massey and Topper, and then just a few more little forestry things. Kind of log splitters. And then a few Massey balers, and a few more of the Shaffers. And then here were some Masseys with front loaders. And then this was quite interesting. This was very, very interesting. This is a band from Moyne in Donegal. They're part of a group for Ulster Scots. Discover Ulster Scots, it says there. So if you don't know, Ulster Scots are people in mainly in Donegal, Fermanagh, Cavan, that area, and Tyrone, who are of lowland Scottish descent, and they fall into a group called Ulster Scots, or the Americans call them Scotch-Irish. And then this was the Garda area, and they had a Valtra in the Garda colours and everything. So they were trying to get people to come and join and become a Guard. And then here's a few more of the Masseys. This is the same ones from earlier. And then the Massey rake and a big huge one and a mower. And just their little stand and everything, and their tethers and their rakes, and here are all their locations as well. If you're curious, Waterford, Kilkenny, Down, Clare, all over the place, same as all the other brands. They were very nice balers, I do have to say. They were kind of like the uni-wrap ones from Class. I think they had a wrapper on the back as well. But yeah, same old stuff. And then over here was the another section. It was kind of the I'm not exactly sure. There was a buck rake up here, a lovely one from I'm not exactly sure who made it. Ram or AM or and M. I couldn't read it there. And then here was the bison, the Unia section. There, and then there was a few little ploughs for turf, and then a few more little attachments from or and M. Sorry, And then here was an NC silage trailer, which you wouldn't see that, they're not common at all. And then here was a few of their attachments. Their Linka sweep, which I still need to get working. And then this is their dump trailer, so the same one as me, the same one that I have, but just in grey instead of blue. And then up here, a few of their muck spreaders, same as mine, just in blue instead of red, and black instead of red. Or sorry, no, this is a slurry tanker. Very nice one. It's a double axle. I'll have to get the muck spreader working as well. And then actually, sorry, no, here is my model, but in obviously up close and in real life. And then they did little dumpers, which I actually didn't know about. And then here's one of the slurry tankers, which is similar to the one I had that I converted into the high spec. And then here's all their agitators and all their stuff. And then here was in the short horn section. There wasn't actually much there. There was only like 3 cattle there. This was them. Nice breed. I do like short horns. There's beef and dairy variants. And then here was some Charolais. And here are the short horns again. These are from Castlebar and Mayo. And there's all their bulls there. And then this was another crowd. They were selling snow ploughs and salt spreaders as well, which I don't think many people will be buying, as obviously we barely get snow, so I don't think anyone will be buying a snow plough. Then again, you could use it for silage. And then coming up here is the Joskin section. Joskin wouldn't be too common in Ireland. You'd see them here and there, but they would still be hard enough to find. But then they have all their stuff here. I think Joskin, I don't know, are they French or are they Belgian? I can't remember. But they have their muck spreaders or dumpers. But they would be more common in mainland Europe. You wouldn't really find them as much in Ireland. You might find them a bit more in the UK. Here was a lovely case. Very nice, big one. And a JCB, Agri Plus. And a few more quads. The quads were everywhere. You couldn't escape the quads. Here was all the cool stuff, the plough, the spreaders and everything. And then here was the fed section. They had the ones with the one had the front loader and one didn't. They had all the harrows on the back. And then here was the Samaz, I think that's how you pronounce it, Samzas. It's a Polish company. They make mowers. They're an FS25 as well, and FS22. And yeah, they're quite nice. And then here was a Connor slurry spreader. And a few more little things, and a tether. And there's the a little ad for crowd that sells the Connor slurry spreaders. And another muck spreader. These are from Cross. So Cross isn't as common as well. They'd be a smaller company. They're Irish, but I'm not sure where in the country they're from. But they had their little stall up here as well, like everybody. And they do mainly slurry spreaders and a few other small yokes. And yeah, they're a very nice company. And they had their big beet cutting bucket. And there it is, their logo and everything. A few of their harrows. And there's a little bit more information. And here was their huge, their absolutely massive chaser bin. It was huge. And here was a few more little yokes. You might notice that it is, here's the I for Williams. and a few more hedge cutters and a few more of the shaffers. As I said, the shaffers were everywhere. You might notice it's a small bit repetitive with the stuff. Some of the bits were kind of the same, just kind of small attachments and stuff for forestry and other stuff. And then there were a few diggers up here, a Hitachi and a case. And there was a few more of them up here. And then there was an old this was kind of in the centre of it. And here were the very small loaders and small tractors. These are more the kind of vineyards and golf courses kind of ones. And there was the Daichi crane. And this was a kind of another kind of more, I suppose, kind of vineyard one. You wouldn't get much use out of them. Neomac. And then a few of the old Kubotas as well. Kubota had a stand. They had all sorts of the tractors, and then they had the kind of the machinery, like the small telehandlers, the diggers, the skid steers on tracks, and then a few of their smaller diggers. And then here was their kind of loader up here. Kubota you wouldn't really find them that much in the kind of agricultural world. They'd be more in kind of building and stuff. And then here's another one of these yokes. I'm not exactly sure what these things are. I think this is a small little swarther, which would be more in America. And then a few more of the sit on lawnmowers, and a very small little dumper, which is quite interesting to see. But the swarthers they're like big X's or big M's, but with no mowers on the side. Then here was a nice JCB loader. I do have a soft spot for these ones. They're lovely. It was on BKT tires. It was just beautiful, and they had all their tires up on show as well. So quite the selection of them. Agri gear, as you can see. And then here was the a few New Holland, the skid steer and the Blue Power again, and the more kind of the building stuff. And then here was all the stuff for sale, and the front loader, and a few more Blue Powers, as you can see. Another two over here. And then we had kind of a bulldozer here, and a small digger, and a forklift. And then up here was the Wilson Super Move, which would be they'd be only kind of on the big farms, but it's a lovely machine, I have to say. I think it's 12 bales you can fit into it, so it's very handy. So you just drive up against them and you pick them up. And then here was a few more. This was I'll have to just look. Cormac, yeah. Cormac had their stand here as well. Bale trailers, small grain trailers, and the dump trailers as well. They're from Mount Mellick in Laois. And then here was the Fleming stand. They had all their stuff. They had their small little tipping trailers and their muck spreaders, the small muck spreaders, and the little boxes and the all the stuff. And then they also had the double bay lifter, which is the same as the model one that I own, which was quite interesting to see. And then a small mower and the slurry yoke, and and here's the slurry tank. And a few more of the things up here, the shear grabs, all that kind of stuff. And then this was, I think this was Tyrone Engineering, they were called. Yeah, Tyrone trailers. I'm guessing they're from Tyrone. And a lot of these companies, this was my first time hearing about them because I hadn't heard about them before. A lot of them just made the small trailers and stuff. And then here's another one of the dump trailers. And then here was a nice bull-nose lorry, Scania. Bull of Kildare was called. I know, was that the last name or not? And then here was there was a nice Scania in there. And a few forklifts, the ones that you see on the back of the lorries. And they were very nice. And then here was another Massey, a lot of Masseys. And then this was O'Donnell's crisps stand, and they were doing a thing to win a lifetime supply of crisps, and it was all inside this Fence 724, which was very cool to see, filled with crisps. And here was their stand. They do very nice crisps, I do love them. And then here was Marty Mohan's stand. He was actually here with his Valtra, and I got a picture with him, which was amazing. And then we stopped for a bit of lunch. I got a chicken burger and a few chips. It was lovely. And then here's the Marlowe stand. Now, it was amazing to meet Marty Mohan. He was a lovely fella. I got a picture with him, and it was free as well, so don't need to bring your money or anything. And then there's all their there's Marlowe's, all their places. But anyway, it's very nice. Marlowe would also be kind of hard enough to find. And then a few more of the forestry things. And this was the planter kind of stuff, the small diggers. And then this was another company I'd never heard of before, Strong Trailers, which is a very fitting name. I thought it was Smith, but this crowd are called Strong. All the silage trailers are built quite alike, but this crowd, very similar to Smith ones. And then this was the McHale plant company, which was actually funny enough out there. They were called McHale. And this was all the Komatsu stuff. And a few more of the forestry things behind here. They do kind of the harvesters. A few more of their diggers and skid steers. And then this was Adair Machinery from Adair, which is in Limerick. Obviously known for Adair Manor. And then this was all Bobcat stuff. So you had diggers and small telehandlers and small skid steers. Same, and then the very small tractors, which would, once again, the kind of vineyard and golf course kind of ones, as I put them. But they were nice enough still. A few more of them here, and I think this is where Dutesfar had a section. They were quite nice, the Dutesfar ones. And here was an old JCB as well. And then up here was the Grassman section, which was very interesting to see. They were they weren't actually, I didn't see them. They had their thing of their few of their clips, and then here was their fast track. Their kind of cream coloured fast track, which I might actually I might buy another fast track and do a conversion into that at some point, because that'll be quite interesting to see. And then here's their New Holland, their TM 140, which was very nice to see up close. All their machines, I thought it was amazing. And then here was their Massey. Their Massey 6500. Or sorry, 6590. Or 6290. Sorry. And then here was their big John Deere. Very, very big. 3790, I think. And then here was all their kind of merch they were selling. And then here were a few. This was on the way kind of back to the car park. just a few little clips I got. A few more of the old kind of forestry things here. A few more of the wood chippers. I hadn't heard of this crow before, tomahawk, or teagle, sorry. They'd be more universal. And then here was the Abbey stand from earlier, next to the Red Rock stand. So it was quite nice to see them. They were obviously competing. And then a few more of the small telehandlers. And there was also the nurse tank back there, if you can see it. Which I've never seen a nurse tank in my life. So it was quite interesting to see one of them. And then here was a Normac section. And then this was very strange to see an American truck, a Mack, in real life. And then here was the last bit. I thought these were Pottinger, but I think they're called Zero Grazers, so they're another company. Haven't really heard of them. Yeah, but they're in the Pottinger colours, so I thought it was Pottinger. But they were nice enough. And then these last clips are just anything kind of interesting that I saw on the way. Just a few little clips of the machinery. This was in Laois. And then I think this was in Kilkenny. And here's just a few of the pictures from the Grassman stand that I got. I think they're very nice. It's just all the tractors. So anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed. I'll see you again very, very soon. Bye.